Touch my daughter again, and I'll break every bone in your hand. The man in first class laughed. Expensive suit, gold Rolex, the smile of someone who had never heard the word no. Who's gonna stop me? You, the stranger in 14C, rose slowly from his seat. Leather jacket, scarred knuckles, eyes like winter. He didn't yell, didn't threaten, just unzipped his jacket. The cabin went silent. Hell's Angels, President, Arizona chapter. The businessman's face turned white. Sarah Mitchell pulled her daughter closer, heart pounding. 5 hours ago, this man had terrified her. Now she understood the truth. The real monster wore a $3,000 suit, and the man everyone feared. He was the only one willing to stop him. Subscribe to our channel and stay until the end. Drop a comment telling us which city you are watching from. Let's see how far this story travels. Sarah Mitchell's hands trembled as she dug through her purse for the boarding pass. Gate 47B, Phoenix Sky Harbor, 11:47 p.m. 36 hours without sleep. 2 consecutive ER shifts. Blood on her scrubs that she hadn't noticed until a stranger pointed it out in the parking garage. And now this. Her phone buzzed again. Rebecca's name flashed across the screen. Sarah, where are you? At the gate. We're boarding soon. She's asking for Lily again. She keeps saying Lily's name over and over. Sarah closed her eyes. Her mother's face swam through the darkness. Not the mother she remembered, strong and laughing and smelling of cinnamon rolls on Sunday mornings. This was someone else. Someone trapped in a body that was shutting down piece by piece. Tell her we're coming. Tell her Lily made her a card. Sarah, Rebecca's voice cracked. The doctor said maybe a week, maybe less. But the way she looked tonight, I don't know if... We'll be there, 8 hours. Just keep her fighting for 8 more hours. She hung up before Rebecca could say anything else. Lily tugged at her sleeve. 8 years old, blonde hair tangled from sleeping in the airport chairs. Eyes that same shade of green their mother used to have before the stroke stole everything. Mommy, is Grandma going to die? The question hit Sarah like a physical blow. Grandma is very sick, sweetheart, but she wants to see you more than anything in the world. That's why we're getting on this plane. Oh, okay, so you can show her your card. Lily held up the construction paper masterpiece. Glitter hearts, crooked letters spelling out, "Get well, Grandma," a drawing of 2 stick figures holding hands, one tall and one small. I made us holding hands, so she remembers what we look like. Sarah's throat closed up. She pulled Lily against her chest, breathing in the smell of her strawberry shampoo. She'll love it, baby. She'll love it so much. Boarding Group C, please approach the gate. Sarah gathered their bags. 1 carry-on stuffed with everything they might need for a week, maybe longer. She'd left a message for her supervisor at Phoenix General explaining the family emergency. She'd figure out the consequences later. Right now, nothing mattered except getting Lily to Boston before it was too late. That's when she saw him. He sat alone near the window, away from the families and business travelers clustered around the charging stations. Leather jacket cracked and faded at the elbows. Silver rings on fingers thick as sausages. A face that looked like someone had carved it from old wood and forgotten to sand down the edges. His hair was brown, shot through with gray, pulled back in a short tail. And his eyes, when they lifted to scan the boarding area, were the pale blue of a winter skioim. Cold, watchful, missing nothing. Something in Sarah's gut clenched. She'd spent 12 years in emergency rooms. She'd learned to read people fast, to sort the victims from the threats in seconds flat. This man set off every alarm she had. He looked like violence waiting to happen. Like the kind of stories you saw on the news, the ones that made you hold your children tighter and check the locks twice before bed. Please, she thought, please don't let him be on my flight. The universe had stopped listening to Sarah Mitchell's prayers a long time ago. Row 14, seats A. Sarah guided Lily to the window seat, tucking the blanket around her shoulders, positioning the stuffed elephant she'd had since she was 2. Try to sleep okay. When you wake up, we'll almost be at Grandma's. Will you sleep too, Mommy? I'll try. She wouldn't. She couldn't. But Lily didn't need to know that. Sarah settled into the middle seat, arranging her purse under the seat in front of her, trying to create a small cocoon of normalcy in the cramped space. The leather jacket appeared in her peripheral vision. She didn't look up, didn't need to. She could feel his presence like heat from a furnace radiating into the narrow row. He lowered himself into 14C. The seat groaned under his weight. Up close, Sarah could see details she'd missed from across the gate. The scars on his knuckles weren't just from one fight. They were layered white over pink over white, years of damage written on his hands like a biography. A tattoo crept up from his collar, black ink, disappearing under his jaw. His leather jacket smelled of motor oil and cigarette smoke, and something else, something metallic. Sarah positioned herself as a barrier between this stranger and her daughter. She angled her shoulders, tucked her elbows, made herself as wide as possible in the cramped seat. The man noticed. Of course he did. Those pale blue eyes tracked her movement, understood it, cataloged it. Then he nodded. Just once. A small acknowledgement that said, I see what you're doing, and I understand why. For some reason, that made Sarah more afraid, not less. Shum. The plane pushed back from the gate at 12:15 a.m. Captain's voice crackling through the speakers, thanking them for flying American Airlines, promising smooth skies and an on-time arrival in Boston. Sarah barely heard any of it. Her mind was 6,000 miles away in a hospital room where her mother lay dying. She thought about the last time they'd spoken. Really spoken before the stroke started stealing words like a thief in the night. It had been an argument. Of course it had been an argument. You're working yourself to death, Sarah. 2 jobs while raising Lily alone. This isn't sustainable. I don't have a choice, Mom. The bills don't pay themselves. Move back to Boston. Live with me. I'll help with Lily while you get back on your feet. I'm not a charity case. You're my daughter. Sarah had hung up, hadn't called back for 2 weeks, and when she finally did, her mother's voice was already different. Slower, confused. The first stroke had happened 3 days after their fight, and Sarah hadn't even known. Now she was racing across the country praying for 8 more hours. Can I get you anything before we take off? Water a pillow. Sarah looked up. The flight attendant was young, pretty, with a smile that probably worked well on businessmen looking for attention. Water would be great, thank you. And for you, sir. The man in the leather jacket shook his head. I'm fine. His voice surprised Sarah. She'd expected gravel roughness, something to match his appearance, but it was quiet, controlled. The voice of someone who didn't need to raise it to be heard. The flight attendant moved on. Sarah accepted her water, took a long drink, tried to steady her nerves. Long trip. She turned. The man was looking at her, not staring, not leering, just looking the way you might look at someone you'd recognize from somewhere, but couldn't quite place. Excuse me? I asked if it's a long trip. You look like you're carrying something heavy. Sarah's defenses went up instantly. Don't engage. Don't encourage. Don't give him anything to work with. But the words came out anyway, squeezed through the cracks in her exhaustion. My mother's dying, in Boston. We're trying to get there before... She couldn't finish. The man nodded slowly. I'm sorry. 2 words. No platitudes. No, she'll pull through, or everything happens for a reason, or any of the other meaningless phrases people threw at grief like confetti. Just acknowledgement. Just truth. Thank you, Sarah whispered. He turned back to the window, and she thought that would be the end of it. She was wrong. 2 hours into the flight, Sarah noticed the man from first class. He'd been up and down the aisle 3 times already. Stretching his legs, he told the flight attendants, getting the blood flowing. But his path was wrong, too deliberate, too focused. He stopped at row 12, checked the overhead bin, moved on. Row 13, same routine, then row 14. Well, look who's stuck back here in steerage. He was leaning into their row, one hand braced on the seat back, the other holding a rocks glass half full of whiskey. His suit probably cost more than Sarah's monthly rent. Gold Rolex catching the dim cabin lights, hair that looked styled even at 2 in the morning, and a smile that made Sarah's skin crawl. Traveling solo with a kid, that's ambitious. We're fine, thank you. I didn't ask if you were fine. His eyes traveled down her body, slow and appraising. I said it's ambitious. Single mom, right? I can always tell. You've got that look, the bags under your eyes, the tension in your shoulders, like you're waiting for the next disaster. Sarah's jaw tightened. Please go back to your seat. I'm just making conversation. Long flight, gets boring up in first class. All those empty seats, nobody interesting to talk to. He leaned closer. She could smell the whiskey now mixing with cologne that probably cost more than her car. Name's Derek Lawson, and you are not interested. His smile flickered. Just for a moment. Something ugly underneath quickly covered over. Feisty, I like that. She asked you to leave. The voice came from Sarah's right, quiet, flat, but it cut through the cabin like a blade through silk. Derek straightened. His eyes moved past Sarah to the man in the leather jacket, and for just a second, something like caution flickered across his face. Mind your own business, Grandpa. I am minding my business. You're standing in my row, blocking my light and bothering my neighbor. That makes it my business. Derek's smile was back, but it was tighter now, harder. Whatever, man, just being friendly. He raised his glass towards Sarah. Think about it, beautiful. First class is a lot more comfortable than this. He walked away, but not before his hand brushed Sarah's shoulder as he passed. She shuddered. Thank you, she whispered to the man beside her. He was already pulling a worn paperback from his jacket pocket. Don't thank me yet. Men like that don't give up easy. An hour later, Sarah understood what he meant. Derek Lawson didn't approach again. He didn't have to. He had other ways of making his presence felt. First came the champagne. A flight attendant appeared at row 14 holding a glass of golden bubbles like it was a peace offering. Compliments of the gentleman in 2A. He hopes you enjoy the rest of your flight. Sarah's stomach turned. Send it back. The flight attendant's smile faltered. Ma'am, it's already been paid for. I said send it back. She did. But 15 minutes later, there was another offering. A note this time handwritten on first-class stationery. I like a woman who plays hard to get, makes the chase more interesting. Seat 2A is waiting whenever you're ready to upgrade. DL. Sarah crumpled the note in her fist. Problem? The man beside her, Marcus, she remembered he'd said his name was Marcus, had lowered his book. His pale eyes tracked her hand, the crumpled paper, the tension in her shoulders. It's nothing. Didn't look like nothing. Sarah hesitated. Every instinct told her to handle this herself. She'd been handling things herself for years. Since Eric left. Since her father died. Since the world made it clear that nobody was coming to save Sarah Mitchell, so she'd better learn to save herself. But something about Marcus's steady gaze made her reconsider. He sent me the note, the guy from before. What did it say? She handed it over, watched his eyes move across the words, watched his jaw tighten almost imperceptibly. This is harassment. I know what it is. What am I supposed to do about it? We're 30,000 feet in the air. Marcus folded the note carefully, tucked it into his jacket pocket. Mind if I keep this white us evidence? The words sent a chill down Sarah's spine. Evidence for what? Before she could ask, another flight attendant appeared. This one looked nervous, apologetic. Ma'am, I'm sorry to bother you, but the gentleman in first class has made a request. I don't care what he's requested. He's asked if your daughter might like to come up and see the cockpit. He says he knows the captain personally and could arrange a special tour. Sarah was on her feet before she knew it. Her voice came out louder than she intended. Are you out of your mind? You want me to send my 8-year-old daughter to first class with a strange man? What is wrong with you people? The flight attendant blanched. Ma'am, please, I was just relaying the message. Relay this. If that man comes near me or my daughter again, I'm filing a formal complaint the second we land. I'm a nurse. I've documented worse than this for assault cases. Tell him that. The flight attendant fled. Sarah sank back into her seat, shaking with anger and fear. Lily stirred beside her, murmuring something in her sleep. Mommy, go back to sleep, sweetheart. Everything's fine. But everything wasn't fine, and it was about to get much worse. The next hour passed in tense silence. Sarah couldn't sleep, couldn't read, couldn't do anything except watch the aisle waiting for Derek Lawson to appear again. He didn't, but his friends did. She spotted them making their way back from first class. 2 men late 30s, the same expensive suits and predatory confidence. They stopped at the row in front of Sarah, pretending to check on a sleeping colleague. That's her, one whispered just loud enough for Sarah to hear. Derek's obsessed, says she's playing hard to get. She's got a kid, man. Since when does that stop him? Remember that waitress in Miami? She came around eventually. They always do. Derek gets what Derek wants. They moved on laughing quietly. Sarah's blood ran cold. They always do. She looked at Lily still sleeping peacefully, clutching her card for Grandma. 8 years old, innocent, trusting, and completely unaware that somewhere in first class, a predator was circling her mother like a shark scenting blood. You heard that? Marcus's voice was soft, but his eyes were hard. Yes, they're testing you, seeing how you react. Men like this, they work in packs, find the weakness, exploit it, break down resistance through intimidation. Sarah's hands were shaking. What do I do? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. Then, do you trust me? The question hung in the air. Sarah looked at this stranger, this man, with the scarred knuckles and the leather jacket and the eyes that had seen the things she couldn't imagine. Every instinct she'd developed over 34 years screamed at her to say no. Don't trust anyone. Handle it yourself. Keep your head down and survive. But there was something else too, something deeper than instinct. This man had intervened twice already. Not for money, not for favors, not for anything she could see, except the simple principle that wrong was wrong and someone should do something about it. I don't know, she admitted. I don't know you. Fair enough, he nodded. My name is Marcus Reeves. I'm 52 years old. I served 2 tours in Vietnam with the Marines before you were born. When I came home, the country didn't want us, so I found a different family. I've been riding with the Hells Angels for 30 years. I've done things I'm not proud of and a few things I am. And right now, the only thing I care about is making sure you and your little girl get to Boston safely. Sarah stared at him. Why, you don't even know me? Something shifted in his face. Pain, old and deep, surfacing for just a moment before he pushed it back down. I had a daughter once, Emma. She would have been about your age now. Would have been. Past tense. What happened? Marcus didn't answer. Instead, he reached into his jacket and pulled out a photograph. Worn at the edges, creased from years of being carried close to someone's heart. A young woman, early 20s, blonde hair, a smile that lit up her whole face. She was a single mom too, just like you, worked 3 jobs to support her son. Never complained, never asked for help, never showed weakness. His voice caught. She met a man, rich, charming, powerful. He wanted her. She said no, and when she kept saying no, he destroyed her life. Sarah felt tears pricking her eyes. Marcus! He got her fired from her jobs, turned her friends against her, had her car repossessed. And when she tried to fight back, his lawyers buried her in lawsuits she couldn't afford to defend. Marcus's hand tightened on the photograph. I was on a run in California when it happened. 3,000 miles away. She called me that night, left a voicemail, said she was sorry, said she loved me, said she couldn't fight anymore. His voice broke. I didn't get the message until the next morning. By then it was too late. Sarah was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face. I'm so sorry. That was 15 years ago. Marcus tucked the photograph back into his jacket close to his heart. 15 years of asking myself what I could have done different. 15 years of watching the world keep making men like him and women like her and wondering why nobody does anything about it. He looked at Sarah, really looked at her like he was seeing past the exhaustion and the fear to something underneath. I can't save Emma, but maybe I can save someone else. Maybe that's all any of us can do. Save the ones we can reach. Oh. The confrontation came at hour 4. Sarah had finally dozed off her head, drooping against the headrest, exhaustion winning over fear. She woke to Lily shaking her arm. Mommy, wake up. That man is taking pictures. Sarah's eyes flew open. Derek Lawson stood in the aisle, phone raised. The camera pointed directly at Lily. He was photographing her daughter. Every cell in Sarah's body ignited at once. She was out of her seat before she knew it, lunging into the aisle, hands reaching for the phone. What the hell are you doing? Derek stepped back, laughing. Relax, Mama Bear. She looked cute sleeping. Just a candid shot. Give me that phone. Make me. Sarah grabbed for it. Derek held it over his head, still laughing, enjoying her panic like it was entertainment. Delete those pictures. Or what you'll call the flight attendant. Go ahead. See how far that gets you. His smile twisted into something ugly. Do you know who I am? Do you have any idea who you're dealing with? I don't care who you are. Delete those pictures of my daughter. Passengers were waking now, heads turning, murmurs rippling through the cabin. But no one moved. No one intervened. They just watched like spectators at a car crash. A flight attendant rushed over, the hands fluttering. Please, ma'am, sir, let's keep our voices down. He's taking pictures of my child. The flight attendant looked at Derek. Derek smiled that charming smile. I was photographing the view outside her window. The little girl happened to be in the frame. Is that a crime? Sir, perhaps you could delete the photo just to ease this passenger's concerns. Derek's smile widened. I don't think I will. I know my rights. This is a public space. I can photograph whatever I want. Sir, the child's mother is clearly uncomfortable, and I'm clearly a first-class passenger who spends $200,000 a year on your airline. Do you really want to make this about comfort levels? The flight attendant wilted. Sarah wanted to scream. She wanted to grab Derek Lawson by his perfectly styled hair and slam his face into the overhead bin. She wanted to claw that smug smile off his face and make him understand what it felt like to be powerless, to be trapped, to be cornered by someone who thought their money made them God. But she couldn't. She was just a tired nurse from Phoenix, a single mom with an 8-year-old daughter and $300 in her checking account, and a mother dying 6,000 miles away. What could she possibly do against a man like Derek Lawson? Delete the photos. The voice came from behind her. Low, quiet, but somehow filling the entire cabin. Sarah turned. Marcus was standing in the aisle. He didn't look angry. He didn't look threatening. He looked like exactly what he was, a 52-year-old man in a leather jacket rising slowly from his seat like he had all the time in the world. But something in his stillness made Derek's smile flicker. Excuse me? I said delete the photos. Marcus took a step forward. I won't ask again. Derek laughed. Too loud, too forced. Who are you supposed to be? Her boyfriend. A little old for her, aren't you? I'm someone who doesn't like men who take pictures of little girls. It was a harmless photo, man. Mind your own business. This is my business. Another step. Delete the photos. And if I don't, Marcus smiled. It was the coldest thing Sarah had ever seen. A smile that had nothing to do with humor or warmth or anything human. It was the smile of a man who had done terrible things and would do them again without hesitation. He unzipped his jacket. The patch caught the dim cabin lights. Hell's Angels MC. And beneath it in smaller letters, President, Arizona chapter. Derek's face went white. The flight attendant gasped. Someone in the rows behind them whispered, Holy sh! Do you know what that patch means? Marcus's voice was soft, almost gentle. It means I've got brothers in every city on this continent. Boston, Phoenix, New York, Los Angeles, Miami. Everywhere you've ever been, everywhere you'll ever go. Derek was backing away now, his bravado crumbling like wet paper. You can't threaten me. I'll have you arrested. I haven't threatened you. Marcus took another step. I've asked you politely to delete some photographs, twice now. I don't usually ask 3 times. The police? Won't find anything. I haven't touched you, haven't raised my voice, haven't done anything except have a conversation with a fellow passenger. Another step. Derek's back hit the bulkhead. Nowhere left to run. But here's what's going to happen if you don't delete those photos in the next 10 seconds. He leaned in close enough to whisper. Sarah couldn't hear what he said, but she saw Derek's face change, saw the color drain from his cheeks, saw the sweat break out on his forehead. She saw a man who had never been afraid of anything in his life suddenly understand what fear really meant. Derek's hands were shaking as he raised the phone. His thumb moved across the screen. Deleting, deleting, deleting. Good. Marcus stepped back. Now apologize. I'm sorry. Louder so the whole cabin can hear. Derek's jaw clenched, hatred and terror warring in his eyes. I'm sorry. Now go back to your seat. And if you look at this woman or her daughter for the rest of this flight, I promise you on my daughter's grave, you will regret it for the rest of your life. Derek stumbled toward first class. He didn't look back. The cabin was silent. Every passenger staring. Every flight attendant frozen. Marcus turned to Sarah. "You okay?" Sarah realized she was crying, tears streaming down her face, her whole body shaking. Yes, I think so." He nodded, turned back to his seat, sat down, opened his book like nothing had happened. Lily was staring at him with wide eyes. "Mommy, is that man a superhero?" Sarah looked at the leather jacket, the Hell's Angels patch, the scarred knuckles turning pages like they'd never done anything more violent than crack open a paperback. "Yes, baby," she whispered. "I think he might be." The cabin settled into an uneasy silence after Derek Lawson retreated to first class. Sarah sat frozen in her seat, her hands still trembling, her heart still racing. She could feel the eyes of other passengers on her curious stares and whispered conversations rippling through the rows like waves after a stone hits water. Lily pressed against her side, small fingers clutching Sarah's sleeve. "Mommy, why was that man taking pictures of me?" Sarah's throat tightened. How do you explain predators to an 8-year-old? How do you tell your daughter that monsters don't live under beds or in closets? They wear expensive suits and fly first class and smile at you like you're something they want to own. "He made a mistake, sweetheart, but the nice man helped us. It's okay now." The man with the jacket. Yes. Lily peered around Sarah's shoulder, studying Marcus with the fearless curiosity of childhood. "He looks scary." "I know. But he's not scary, is he, Mommy? He's like a superhero with a secret identity. He looks mean so the bad guys don't know he's actually good." Sarah felt tears threatening again, out of the mouths of babes. "Yeah, baby, something like that." Marcus turned a page in his book. Sarah caught the faintest twitch at the corner of his mouth. He'd heard. The next 20 minutes passed in relative calm. Lily eventually drifted back to sleep, exhausted by fear and the late hour. Sarah watched the darkness outside the window, counting the blinking lights of other aircraft passing in the night. Her phone buzzed, a text from Rebecca. "Mom's stable, still asking for Lily. How much longer?" Sarah checked the flight tracker. 4 hours and 12 minutes to Boston. "Almost halfway there. Tell her we're coming. Tell her to hold on." 3 dots appeared, Rebecca typing. Then, "She said something strange tonight. Kept talking about a man in leather. Said he was watching over you. I thought it was the medication talking." Sarah's blood went cold. She looked at Marcus, still reading his book, still radiating that quiet, dangerous calm. Her mother had never met Marcus, had never seen him, had never known he existed. And yet somehow from a hospital bed 3,000 miles away, dying by inches, she had known. Sarah typed back with shaking fingers. "She's not wrong." Rebecca's response was immediate. "What does that mean?" "Sarah, what's going on?" "I'll explain when I get there. Just tell Mom. Tell her she was right. Someone is watching." She put the phone away before Rebecca could ask more questions she couldn't answer. Marcus lowered his book. "Your mother, my sister, texting about my mom." Sarah hesitated. "She said something strange. My mom, I mean. She told my sister there was a man in leather watching over us. She said it before we even boarded this plane." Marcus was quiet for a long moment. "Some people see things the rest of us can't, especially near the end. My grandmother was the same way. Told me the day before she died that she could see my grandfather waiting for her in the corner of the room. He'd been gone 15 years. You believe in that, visions, premonitions? I believe there's more to this world than what we can see and touch and prove." He closed his book, set it on his lap. "I also believe that sometimes people end up exactly where they're supposed to be, even if they don't understand why until later." Sarah studied his profile, the hard lines, the old scars, the weariness that seemed to go bone deep. "Why are you going to Boston, Marcus?" The question hung in the air. Business. Club business. A flicker of something, maybe surprise, crossed his face. "You know about the club. Everyone knows about the Hell's Angels. You're not exactly low profile." "No, I suppose we're not." He turned to face her, those pale blue eyes steady and unreadable. "There's a funeral. A brother who served with me in Vietnam. 50 years we've known each other. Rode together for 30 of those years. He died last week." Lung cancer. They're putting him in the ground tomorrow morning. I'm sorry. Don't be. He lived the life he wanted, died on his own terms, surrounded by family. That's more than most people get. Sarah thought about her mother alone in that hospital room, her mind slipping away piece by piece. I hope that's how it goes for my mom, on her own terms, I mean, with family around her. That's why you're making this trip. Yes. At 2 a.m. on 3 hours of sleep, with an 8-year-old and $300 in your checking account. Sarah stiffened. How do you know about my checking account? Marcus smiled, a real smile this time with actual warmth in it. I don't. I was guessing. Nurses don't make enough, single moms never have enough, and you're flying coach on a red-eye with a carry-on bag. It wasn't a hard math problem. Sarah felt herself relaxing just slightly. I'm that obvious. You're that honest. There's a difference. Somewhere in first class, a man laughed. Sarah's whole body went rigid. Marcus noticed. He won't bother you again. You can't know that. Yes, I can. His voice carried absolute certainty. Men like Derek Lawson are cowards underneath the money and the swagger. They prey on people they think can't fight back. The moment someone stands up to them, really stands up, they crumble. I've seen it 100 times. What if he waits until we land? What if he follows us? Then I'll make another phone call. What kind of phone call? Marcus pulled out his phone. Old model scratched and battered. He scrolled through his contacts, turned the screen so Sarah could see. Names, dozens of them, hundreds maybe. Each one followed by a city. Bone Boston, Hammer Boston, Priest Boston, Chains Providence, Viper Hartford, Ghost New York. Every city has brothers. Boston has 23 in the charter, another 40 or so who've retired but still answer when called. One word from me and Derek Lawson becomes the most watched man in Massachusetts. Sarah stared at the screen. You do that for someone you just met. I'd do it for anyone in your situation, but especially for you. Why especially me? Marcus put the phone away. His eyes went distant, focusing on something Sarah couldn't see. I told you about Emma, about what happened to her. The man who destroyed her life. His name was Richard Ashworth, investment banker, old money, old connections. He saw Emma at a charity event, decided he wanted her, and didn't understand the word no. Marcus's jaw tightened. When she rejected him, he made it his mission to ruin her. Not because she'd done anything wrong, just because she'd wounded his pride. And no one helped her. People tried, her friends stood by her for a while, but Ashworth had lawyers' influence reach. One by one, he picked off everyone in her corner, got her best friend fired, sued her brother into bankruptcy, threatened her mother with an audit that would have destroyed her business. Sarah felt sick. That's evil. That's power without conscience. That's what happens when men like Ashworth and Derek Lawson go through life, never hearing the word no, never facing consequences, never meeting anyone they can't buy or bully or break. But you're not exactly powerless. The club, the patch, you could have, I wasn't there. The words came out ragged. I was in California, club business. Important business, I thought. More important than my daughter's phone calls. More important than the voice messages I didn't listen to. More important than the signs I should have seen. His voice broke on the last word. Marcus? She called me 19 times the week before she died. 19 times. I answered twice. Twice Sarah. And both times I told her I was busy, that I'd call her back, that everything would be fine. He pulled out the photograph again. Emma young and beautiful and smiling. The last voicemail was 93 seconds long. She said she loved me, said she was sorry, said she didn't want to be a burden anymore. His hand trembled, said she hoped I'd understand. Sarah was crying openly now. She didn't care. Let the other passengers stare. Let them whisper. This man had just opened a wound that had been bleeding for 15 years, and she felt the least she could do was witness it. It wasn't your fault. Yes, it was, not the harassment, not what Ashworth did, but the ending that was on me. If I'd been there, if I'd listened, if I'd made her believe she wasn't alone, you couldn't have known. I should have known. I'm her father. Knowing was my job. He tucked the photograph away, took a deep breath. After she died, I went looking for Ashworth, tracked him to his house in Connecticut. Beautiful place, manicured lawn, 3-car garage, the American dream. What happened? I sat outside for 6 hours, watched him come home from work, watched him kiss his wife, watched him play with his kids in the backyard. He had kids, 2 girls, 8 and 10, about Lily's age. Sarah's stomach lurched. What did you do? Nothing. The word hung heavy in the air. I sat there with my hands on the handlebars, thinking about Emma, thinking about justice, thinking about what I could do to make him hurt the way she hurt. And then I looked at those little girls and I realized something. What? If I killed their father, they'd grow up without him. They'd spend the rest of their lives wondering why. Maybe they'd end up broken too. Maybe they'd end up like Emma. He shook his head slowly. I couldn't do that. I couldn't create more fatherless daughters to balance out the one I lost. So you just let him go. I let him live. That's not the same as letting him go. Marcus's eyes hardened. I made some calls, talked to some people. 6 months later, the SEC opened an investigation into his firm. Turns out Mr. Ashworth had been doing some creative accounting, insider trading, fraud, the kinds of things that rich men do when they think no one's watching. You turned him in. I made sure the right people were watching. Ashworth is doing 12 years in federal prison now. His wife divorced him. His kids haven't visited once. A ghost of satisfaction crossed his face. Justice doesn't always come from the barrel of a gun. Sometimes it comes from a phone call to the right person at the right time. Sarah sat back processing everything she'd heard. This man, this Hell's Angel with his leather jacket and his scars and his Brotherhood of outlaws, had chosen justice over vengeance, had chosen to break a monster through the system rather than outside it, had watched his daughter's tormentor play with his children and walked away rather than create more orphans. That wasn't what the movies said about men like Marcus Reeves. That wasn't what society said about bikers and outlaws and the kinds of people mothers warned their daughters about. You're not what I expected, she said quietly. Nobody ever is. That's the first lesson life teaches you if you're paying attention. What's the second lesson? The people who look like heroes aren't always heroic, and the people who look like monsters aren't always monstrous. The only way to know the truth about anyone is to watch what they do when they think no one's looking. Sarah thought about Derek Lawson, the expensive suit, the charming smile, the predator underneath. She thought about Marcus, the leather jacket, the cold eyes, the father's heart beating underneath all that armor. I think I'm starting to understand. Before Marcus could respond, a commotion erupted near the front of the cabin. Raised voices, movement in the aisle, a flight attendant rushing past with a look of barely contained panic. What's going on? Sarah craned her neck to see. Marcus was already on his feet, blocking the aisle, one hand steady on the seat back. Stay here. Keep Lily close. He moved toward first class before Sarah could protest. The voices grew louder. Sarah caught fragments. Don't care who you are. Call the captain. See how this plays out when we land. Then Derek Lawson's voice, sharp and ugly. That bitch humiliated me. You think I'm going to just let that go? Sarah's blood turned to ice. She pulled Lily closer, wrapping her arms around her daughter's sleeping form, trying to shield her from whatever was coming. Marcus had reached the curtain separating coach from first class. She saw him speak to the flight attendant, low and calm. The attendant's face went from panic to relieved in an instant. Whatever Marcus said, it worked. He ducked through the curtain, silence from first class. Then a voice unmistakably Derek's, but different now. Higher, frightened. Okay, I'll stay in my seat. Just keep him away from me. Muffled conversation, movement behind the curtain. Then Marcus reappeared, his face expressionless, and walked back to row 14 like he'd just returned from the bathroom rather than a confrontation with a predator. What happened? Nothing important. Marcus. He sat down, buckled his seatbelt, picked up his book. He had some ideas about making trouble when we landed. I helped him understand why that would be a mistake. What kind of mistake? The kind that involves a lot of men in leather showing up at his office, his home, his favorite restaurants, everywhere he goes for the rest of his life. You threatened him again. I educated him. Marcus turned a page. There's a difference. Threats are about fear. Education is about understanding consequences. Derek Lawson now understands that his actions have consequences he can't buy or lawyer his way out of. And his friends, the other men from first class, they understood too, remarkably quick learners, all of them. Lily stirred against Sarah's shoulder. Mommy? What's happening? Nothing, baby. Go back to sleep. Is the bad man gone? Sarah looked at Marcus, who gave a tiny nod. Yes, sweetheart. The bad man's gone. For good this time. Lily's eyes, heavy with sleep, focused on Marcus. Thank you, Mr. Superhero. Something cracked in Marcus's face. That wall of stone he'd built around himself, the armor he wore against the world, developed a hairline fracture. You're welcome, little one. Lily smiled the pure, trusting smile of a child who still believed in good guys and bad guys and happy endings. Then she closed her eyes and drifted back to sleep. Sarah watched Marcus stare at her daughter, and she saw something in his eyes she hadn't seen before. Grief, love, loss. All the emotions a father feels when he looks at a child that isn't his and remembers the one who was. She reminds you of Emma, doesn't she? Marcus nodded slowly. The hair, the smile, the way she trusts people she barely knows. He looked away. Emma was like that too. She saw the good in everyone, even when there wasn't any good to see. I used to think it was her greatest strength. Turns out it was her greatest vulnerability. Lily's not vulnerable. She has me. Emma had me too, and I failed her. You didn't fail her. You weren't given a fair chance to save her. That's what I tell myself. Most days I almost believe it. The plane shuddered through a patch of turbulence. Lily whimpered in her sleep, but didn't wake. Sarah checked her phone. 3 hours and 41 minutes to Boston. Tell me about the club, she said quietly. Not the stuff everyone knows. The real stuff. What made you join? What made you stay? Marcus set his book aside. I came home from Vietnam in 1972, 20 years old, 2 tours, 37 confirmed kills. He said it matter-of-factly without pride or shame. The country didn't want us, called us baby killers, spit on us at airports, wouldn't hire us, wouldn't rent to us, wouldn't look us in the eye. That must have been awful. It was what it was. Can't change how people feel, can only change how you respond. He shifted in his seat, leather creaking. I found the club through a guy I served with, Rodney Wrench Paulson. Saved his life twice in the Mekong Delta. He said he knew some people who'd understand, people who didn't judge you for what you'd done to survive. And they accepted you just like that. Nothing's just like that. I prospected for a year, did the grunt work, proved myself, but yeah, eventually they voted me in. And for the first time since I got back to the States, I felt like I belonged somewhere. What does the club give you? Really? Marcus considered the question. Brotherhood, that's the word everyone uses, but it means something different than civilians think. It means I've got 1,000 men who'd die for me, and I'd die for any one of them. It means I never walk alone, never fight alone, never face anything alone. And the other stuff, the stuff that's not so noble. We're not saints, Sarah. Never claimed to be. We've done things the law frowns on. Made money in ways that wouldn't hold up to scrutiny. But we've got codes, rules, lines we don't cross. Like what? We don't hurt women. We don't hurt children. We don't deal to kids. We don't prey on people who can't fight back. His voice hardened. Any one in the club who breaks those rules answers to the rest of us. And that's not a pleasant conversation. Has that happened? Someone breaking the rules. Once. A prospect in Nevada. He thought the patch made him untouchable. Thought he could do whatever he wanted to whoever he wanted. Marcus's jaw clenched. He learned otherwise. Sarah didn't ask for details. She didn't want them. The world thinks you're criminals. The world thinks what it wants to think. We stopped trying to change that a long time ago. But you help people, like me, like other women in trouble. We help our communities. We run charity rides for veterans. We escort abused kids to court so they don't have to face their abusers alone. We stand guard at funerals for fallen soldiers when the Westboro freaks try to protest. I didn't know that. Most people don't. The media likes the outlaw story better. Sells more papers. Sarah looked at the patch on his jacket. The death's head. The wings. The words that made people cross the street, lock their doors, clutch their purses tighter. It's almost funny, she said. Everyone's afraid of you. Meanwhile, the real monsters wear suits and fly first class. That's always been the way of it. The devil doesn't show up with horns and a pitchfork. He shows up with a smile and a business card. Another patch of turbulence rattled the cabin. The fastened seatbelt sign dinged on. Sarah checked her phone again. 3 hours and 12 minutes. Her mother was still alive. Still fighting. Still waiting. Hang on, Mom, just a few more hours. We're coming. She looked at Marcus, this stranger who had become something else entirely over the course of a few hours. Protector, confessor, maybe somehow friend. Can I ask you something personal? You can ask, might not answer. After Emma died, did you ever think about ending it yourself? The question hung in the recycled air. Marcus was quiet for a long time. Every day for the first year, every week for the next 3, every month for a while after that. He stared at the seat back in front of him. The only thing that kept me going was the club. They wouldn't let me fall, wouldn't let me disappear into a bottle or off a bridge. They showed up every day, made me eat, made me ride, made me keep living even when I didn't want to. That's what family does. That's what chosen family does. The family you're born into doesn't always show up. The family you choose doesn't have any other option. Sarah thought about her own family. Her sister Rebecca waiting in Boston. Her mother dying by inches. Her ex-husband who'd walked out when Lily was 3 and hadn't looked back. I don't have much family left. Just my mom and my sister. And Lily, of course. Lily's the only family that matters. Everything else is just bonus. Is that why you protect people like me? Because of Lily. I protect people like you because of Emma. Because every time I see a woman being harassed or threatened or bullied by some man who thinks his money makes him God, I see my daughter. I see what could have been different if someone had stepped in, if someone had stood up. You can't save everyone. No, but I can save some, and some is better than none. The flight attendant appeared with a cart offering drinks and snacks. Sarah waved her off. Marcus accepted a cup of black coffee. How do you take it so strong? Sarah asked, watching him drink the bitter liquid without flinching. Years of practice. The club's coffee could strip paint. This is practically tea by comparison. Sarah laughed. It felt strange laughing after everything that had happened tonight. But also good, necessary, human. Thank you, she said, for everything. I don't know how I'll ever repay you. You don't owe me anything. I owe you my peace of mind. I owe you my daughter's safety. Those aren't small things. Marcus finished his coffee, crushed the paper cup, tucked it into the seat pocket. If you want to repay me, here's what you do. When you get to Boston, hug your mother. Tell her you love her. Tell her you're sorry for whatever stupid argument you haven't apologized for yet. And when she goes, whenever that is, hold her hand. Be there. Don't let her face the end alone. Sarah's eyes filled with tears again. That's what you wish you'd done with Emma. That's what I wish I'd done with everyone I've lost. My grandmother, my father, my brothers who didn't make it back from Vietnam. Emma. He looked at Sarah with those pale blue eyes, and for the first time she saw the man underneath all the leather and scars in history. Death is inevitable. Regret isn't. Don't give yourself reasons to look back and wish you'd done things differently. I won't. Promise me. I promise. He nodded, satisfied. Then one more thing. What? That man, Derek Lawson, he's not going to bother you again. I meant what I said about that. But men like him, they don't just exist in first class on airplanes. They're everywhere. Your workplace, your neighborhood, Lily's school. They're in churches and hospitals and grocery stores and anywhere else people get her by. I know. You need to learn to see them, to recognize them before they get close, to trust your instincts when something feels wrong. How? Your gut knew Derek Lawson was trouble the moment he appeared in the aisle. You felt it, that tightening in your stomach, that voice in your head telling you to run. I couldn't run. We're on a plane. That's not the point. The point is you knew, and knowing is the first step. The second step is acting on that knowledge. Not freezing, not hoping it'll go away. Acting. I don't know how to act. I'm just a nurse. You're not just anything, Sarah Mitchell. You're a mother, a survivor, a woman who's been knocked down more times than she can count and keeps getting back up. His voice softened. That's not just. That's everything. Sarah wiped her eyes. You really believe that? I've met a lot of people in 52 years. Presidents and pimps, saints and sinners. The strongest ones aren't the biggest or the richest or the meanest. They're the ones who keep going when everything tells them to stop. They're people like you. The plane hummed on through the darkness. 2 hours and 58 minutes to Boston. Sarah looked at her sleeping daughter, then at the man who had somehow become the most important stranger she'd ever met. Marcus, yeah. If things were different, if we'd met some other way, do you think we could have been friends? He smiled, that rare, genuine smile that transformed his weathered face. Sarah, I think we already are. And somewhere over Pennsylvania, 30,000 feet above the sleeping country, a single mother from Phoenix and a Hell's Angel from Arizona sat in the darkness together, not as strangers anymore, as something more. The captain's voice crackled through the speakers at 5:47 a.m. Ladies and gentlemen, we're beginning our descent into Boston Logan International Airport. Local time is approximately 6:15. Temperature on the ground is 34 degrees. Please return your seats to their upright position and fasten your seatbelts. Sarah's eyes snapped open. She hadn't meant to fall asleep. Hadn't thought it was possible, not after everything that had happened. But exhaustion had finally won, pulling her under somewhere over Connecticut. Lily was still curled against her side, the card for Grandma clutched in her small fist even in sleep. Marcus was awake. Of course he was. Sarah wondered if the man ever slept. How long was I out? About an hour. You needed it. Sarah stretched her neck, aching from the awkward position. Through the window, she could see the first gray light of dawn creeping over the horizon. Boston. They'd made it. Her phone buzzed the moment the plane dropped below 10,000 feet. 3 missed calls from Rebecca, 2 voicemails, a string of text messages that made Sarah's heart stop. She's fading fast. The doctors don't think she'll make it through the morning. Sarah, where are you? Please hurry. Mom keeps saying Lily's name over and over. It's all she can say now. Please, please hurry. Sarah's hands were shaking so badly she could barely type a response. Landing now, 20 minutes. Tell her we're coming. Tell her to hold on. She looked at Marcus, panic rising in her chest. My mother, the doctors say, I know. His voice was calm, steady, an anchor in the storm. We'll get you there. How? By the time we deplane, get through the terminal, find a taxi. You won't need a taxi. Sarah stared at him. What do you mean? Marcus pulled out his phone, typed a quick message, hit send. I told you, brothers in every city. Boston has 23. Marcus, I can't ask you to. You didn't ask, I offered. He tucked the phone away. When we land, there'll be someone waiting. He'll get you to the hospital faster than any taxi. Who? His name's Danny. Road name's Bone. He's been with the club for 30 years. Knows every shortcut in Boston, every back road, every way to beat traffic. He'll have you at your mother's bedside in 15 minutes. Sarah felt tears streaming down her face. Again. She'd cried more in the past 6 hours than she had in the past 6 years. Why are you doing this? All of this. Marcus turned to face her fully. Because 15 years ago, my daughter needed help and nobody came. Because she faced a monster alone and it killed her. Because I swore on her grave that I would never let that happen to another woman as long as I had breath in my body. He reached out, took Sarah's trembling hand in his scarred one. You're not alone, Sarah Mitchell. Not anymore. Not ever again. The plane touched down with a screech of tires and a roar of reversed engines. Lily jolted awake, confused and disoriented. Mommy? Are we there? Yes, baby, we're in Boston. We're going to see Grandma. Is she okay? Sarah couldn't lie, not about this. She's very sick, sweetheart, but she's waiting for us. She wants to see you more than anything in the world. Lily clutched her card tighter. I need to give her this. I need to show her our picture. You will, baby. I promise. The plane taxied to the gate with agonizing slowness. Sarah wanted to scream at the pilot, at the ground crew, at the universe itself. Every second felt like an hour. Every moment was another moment her mother might slip away. Finally, mercifully, the seatbelt sign dinged off. Sarah was on her feet instantly, grabbing their carry-on, pulling Lily into the aisle. Other passengers were moving too slowly, fumbling with bags, checking phones, oblivious to the fact that somewhere in this city a grandmother was dying. Excuse me, please. I need to get through. It's an emergency. Some people moved, others didn't. Sarah felt her frustration building to a breaking point. Then Marcus stood up behind her. He didn't say a word, didn't need to. He simply rose to his full height, leather jacket open patch visible, and the aisle cleared like magic. Thank you, Sarah whispered. Go, I'll be right behind you. She grabbed Lily's hand and ran, through the jetway, into the terminal, past the gate agents and the coffee shops and the crowds of early morning travelers. Her lungs burned, her legs ached, but she didn't stop. Lily struggled to keep up, her small legs pumping frantically. Mommy, slow down. I can't, baby. We have to hurry. I'm scared, Mommy. Sarah scooped her daughter into her arms without breaking stride. Lily was heavy, almost too heavy for Sarah's exhausted body, but she didn't care. She would carry her daughter across the entire airport if she had to, across the entire city, across the entire world. They burst through the security exit into the arrivals hall, and there he was, a man in his 60s, silver beard, leather vest over a flannel shirt, the same patch Marcus wore. Hell's Angels MC, Boston. He spotted Sarah, immediately raised one hand in greeting. Sarah Mitchell. Yes, that's me. I'm Bone. Marcus called. My bike's outside. Let's move. Sarah hesitated for just a second. A motorcycle with Lily Bone read her mind. Got a cage, too. Trucks in short-term parking. Figured the little one might not be up for 2 wheels at 6 in the morning. Relief flooded through her. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank Marcus. He's the one who made the call. Bone was already moving toward the exit. Come on, every second counts. Sarah followed Lily, still in her arms. They were halfway to the parking garage when Marcus caught up with them, moving fast despite his age, his leather jacket flapping behind him. Bone. Ghost. The two men clasped hands, a quick embrace. Been too long, brother. I know, we'll catch up after. Right now she needs to get to Mass General. Already programmed the GPS. 12 minutes if traffic cooperates. Make it cooperate. Bone grinned, a flash of gold teeth. You got it. They reached the truck, a massive black Ford F-250 that looked like it had seen better days but ran like a dream. Bone helped Sarah and Lily into the back seat while Marcus climbed into the front. Wait, Sarah said. You're coming too. Told you, brothers in every city. I'm not leaving you until I know you're safe. The engine roared to life. Bone pulled out of the parking space with a squeal of tires that made Lily squeak in surprise. Hold on, little one, Bone called over his shoulder. Uncle Bone's going to show you how we do things in Boston. They hit the highway at 70 miles an hour. Sarah watched the city blur past her, heart pounding, her phone clutched in her hand. Rebecca had sent another message. She's still here, barely. Hurry. 5 minutes, Sarah typed back. Tell her we're 5 minutes away. Bone weaved through traffic like the laws of physics were merely suggestions. Cars honked, drivers shouted. He ignored them all, focused entirely on the road ahead. Your friend, Marcus, he said, glancing in the rearview mirror. He tell you about Emma? Sarah nodded. He told me. Hardest thing I ever saw what happened after. Ghost was a different man before Emma died. Laughed more, smiled more. Had this light in his eyes, you know, the kind that comes from loving someone more than yourself. And after, the light went out. For a long time, we thought we'd lost him too. Not to a bullet or a crash, to grief, to guilt, to the weight of all the things he wished he'd done different. Marcus was staring out the windshield, silent, listening but not responding. What brought him back? Sarah asked. Bone was quiet for a moment. A girl, maybe 10 years old. We were doing a charity run, escorting kids who'd been abused to court so they could testify against the bastards who hurt them. This one girl, she was so scared she couldn't walk. frozen solid in the parking lot, shaking like a leaf. What happened? Ghost walked over to her, didn't say a word, just knelt down, took off his jacket, wrapped it around her shoulders. And she looked at him, this little girl who'd been hurt by men her whole life, and she saw something in his face that made her trust him. She took his hand, walked into that courthouse, testified for 3 hours straight. Sarah felt tears on her cheeks again. After that, Bone continued, Ghost started showing up to every escort, every charity run, every situation where a woman or a kid needed protection. Became his whole reason for being. Said if he couldn't save Emma, he'd save as many others as he could. Marcus finally spoke, his voice rough. That's enough, Bone. She should know, brother. She should know who's been watching over her tonight. The truck took a hard right, and suddenly they were pulling into the emergency entrance of Massachusetts General Hospital. We're here, Bone announced. Sarah was out of the truck before it fully stopped, Lily in her arms, legs pumping toward the automatic doors. 4th floor, Rebecca's voice came through the phone. Room 412, hurry. Sarah ran, through the lobby, past the reception desk, into an elevator that took forever to arrive and even longer to climb 4 floors. Lily was crying now, scared by her mother's desperation. Mommy, what's wrong? Why are we running? Grandma needs us, baby. She needs to see your card. The elevator doors opened. Sarah sprinted down the hallway, counting room numbers. 408, 410, 412. She burst through the door. Her mother lay in the hospital bed, small and frail and impossibly old. Machines beeped and hummed around her, tubes snaked from her arms. Her eyes were closed. Rebecca stood by the window, tears streaming down her face. Sarah, oh God, Sarah, she's been asking for you, for Lily, for hours. Sarah moved to the bedside, Lily still in her arms. Mom, we're here. Lily's here. Her mother's eyes fluttered open. For a moment there was nothing, just the blank stare of someone lost in the fog of illness and medication. Then recognition sparked. Sarah, the word was barely a whisper. My Sarah. I'm here, Mom, I'm here. And Lily, where's my Lily? Sarah lowered her daughter to the edge of the bed. Lily held out the card with trembling hands. I made this for you, Grandma. See, it's us holding hands, so you remember what we look like. Her mother's eyes filled with tears. Her gnarled fingers reached out, touching the glitter hearts, the crooked letters, the stick figures holding hands. It's beautiful, she whispered. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Do you like it, Grandma? I love it. I love it more than anything in the world. Lily climbed onto the bed, careful of the tubes and wires, and nestled against her grandmother's side. I missed you, Grandma. I missed you too, sweetheart. Every single day. Sarah stood beside the bed, watching her daughter and her mother together. The beginning and the ending, the full circle of life captured in a single moment. Mom, she said quietly, I'm sorry. For the argument, for not calling, for everything. Her mother's eyes met hers. There's nothing to forgive, Sarah. You're here, that's all that matters. I should have come sooner. You came when you needed to come. That's how it works. That's how it's always worked. Sarah took her mother's hand. It felt like paper, thin and fragile, the bones visible beneath translucent skin. The man on the plane, her mother whispered suddenly, the one in leather. He watched over you. Sarah's breath caught. How did you know about him? I saw him in a dream. He was standing behind you, keeping the shadows away. Rebecca moved closer, confusion on her face. Mom, what are you talking about? What man? But Sarah understood. Somehow, impossibly, her mother had known, had seen, had reached across 3,000 miles and glimpsed the truth. His name is Marcus, Sarah said. And you're right, he watched over us. Her mother smiled, a peaceful smile, a knowing smile. Good, that's good. Everyone needs a guardian angel. He's not exactly an angel, Mom. The best ones never are. Lily had fallen asleep against her grandmother's shoulder, exhausted from the long night and the frantic morning. Sarah watched them together, these two people she loved more than life itself, and felt something break open inside her chest. Not pain, not grief, something else. Gratitude. For this moment, for this chance, for the stranger on a plane who had made sure she got here in time. I love you, Mom. I love you too, sweetheart. Always have, always will. The morning light streamed through the hospital window, warm and golden. Sarah held her mother's hand and waited. Because some moments weren't about doing anything at all. They were just about being there, being present, being together, for as long as there was time left. She didn't know how long she stood there. Minutes, hours. Time had lost it all meaning. Eventually there was a soft knock at the door. Sarah turned. Marcus stood in the doorway, hat in his hands, his presence somehow both imposing and respectful. I wanted to make sure you made it. Sarah crossed the room, threw her arms around him, and held on tight. Thank you, she whispered against his leather jacket. Thank you for everything. His arms came around her, awkward at first, then gentle. The embrace of a man who had forgotten how to receive comfort but remembered how to give it. Did you make it in time? Yes, she's awake. She saw Lily. She saw the card. Marcus pulled back, looked past Sarah to the bed where Lily slept curled against her grandmother. Something shifted in his face. That's what matters, he said quietly. That's all that ever matters. Will you stay, just for a little while? He hesitated. This is family time. I don't want to intrude. You're not intruding. You're the reason we're here. Sarah took his hand, led him into the room. Mom, there's someone I want you to meet. Her mother's eyes opened, focused on Marcus with surprising clarity. The man in leather. Yes, Mom, this is Marcus. He's the one who helped us on the plane. Marcus approached the bed slowly, respectfully, like a soldier approaching a fallen comrade. Ma'am? Her mother studied him for a long moment, then she reached out her hand. Thank you for bringing my girls home. Marcus took her hand, held it gently in his scarred grip. It was my honor, ma'am. You lost someone. I can see it in your eyes. The words hung in the air. Yes, ma'am, my daughter, 15 years ago. She's proud of you. Wherever she is, she's proud of what you did tonight. Marcus's composure cracked. Just for a moment. A flash of raw grief quickly hidden. I hope so, ma'am. I really hope so. Sarah's mother squeezed his hand. I know so. A mother always knows. And in that hospital room surrounded by machines and monitors and the soft beeping of equipment, something passed between them. A blessing, an understanding, a connection that transcended words. Marcus bowed his head. Thank you, ma'am. No, thank you for protecting my daughter when I couldn't. She closed her eyes at exhaustion, pulling her back under. Marcus stepped away from the bed, his face unreadable. I should go. The funeral's in a few hours. My brother deserves a proper send-off. Marcus, you have my number if you ever need anything, anything at all. He met her eyes. You call, day or night. Don't hesitate. I won't. He nodded once, then he turned and walked out of the room. Sarah watched him go, this stranger who had changed everything. Who had protected her daughter? Who had gotten her to Boston in time? Who had shown her that heroes didn't always look like heroes? Sometimes they wore leather jackets and rode motorcycles and belonged to clubs that society feared. Sometimes they were exactly what you needed, exactly when you needed them. She turned back to the bed where her mother was drifting in and out of consciousness, where Lily was sleeping peacefully, where Rebecca was finally allowing herself to cry. He's a good man, her mother murmured, eyes still closed. Yes, Mom, he really is. Don't let him disappear. People like that, they need people like us, just as much as we need them. Her voice trailed off. Sarah pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down. She took her mother's hand in one of hers. She placed her other hand on Lily's sleeping back, and she waited for whatever came next, for as long as it took. She was exactly where she needed to be. Eleanor Mitchell died at 3:47 p.m. on a Tuesday afternoon. She went quietly the way she'd lived, without drama or fanfare. One moment she was breathing, her chest rising and falling in that shallow rhythm Sarah had memorized over the past 6 days. The next moment, she wasn't. The machines didn't scream. There was no frantic rush of doctors and nurses, just a soft, flatline tone and a silence that filled the room like water filling a glass. Sarah was holding her mother's hand when it happened. Lily was asleep in the chair by the window, exhausted from days of hospital visits, in whispered conversations, and trying to understand why Grandma couldn't wake up anymore. Rebecca stood on the other side of the bed, tears streaming down her face, one hand pressed against her mouth to hold back the sobs. Mom, Sarah's voice cracked. Mom, can you hear me?" But Eleanor Mitchell was gone. Somewhere between one heartbeat and the next, she had slipped away to whatever came after. To wherever people went when their bodies gave out and their spirits moved on. Sarah didn't cry, not at first. She just sat there holding her mother's hand, feeling the warmth slowly drain from the papery skin, feeling the fingers that had once braided her hair and wiped her tears and held her through nightmares grow cold and still. "She's gone," Rebecca whispered. "She's really gone." Sarah nodded. She couldn't speak. There were no words for this moment. No language adequate to describe the feeling of losing the woman who had given you life. A nurse appeared in the doorway, saw the flat line on the monitor, and quietly entered the room. "I'm so sorry for your loss. Would you like some time before we—" "Yes," Sarah's voice came out stronger than she expected. "Please, just a few more minutes." The nurse nodded and withdrew. Sarah looked at her mother's face, peaceful now. The lines of pain smoothed away, the struggle finally over. "You fought so hard, Mom. You held on until we got here. Until Lily could show you her card." Rebecca moved around the bed, put her arm around Sarah's shoulders. "She waited for you. She refused to let go until she saw you both." "I know. That last week, every time a nurse came in, she'd ask if Sarah was here yet, if Lily was coming. She couldn't remember what day it was or what she'd had for breakfast, but she remembered you. She always remembered you." Sarah finally felt the tears coming, hot and heavy, spilling down her cheeks, dripping onto her mother's still hand. "I should have come sooner. I should have visited more. I should have—" "Stop." Rebecca's voice was firm but gentle. "You came when you could. You were here when it mattered. That's what she wanted. That's all she ever wanted." Lily stirred in the chair, woken by the sound of crying. "Mommy, what's wrong?" Sarah wiped her face quickly, trying to compose herself. But there was no hiding this, no protecting her daughter from the truth. "Sweetheart, come here." Lily climbed out of the chair and crossed to the bed. She looked at her grandmother, at the stillness that hadn't been there before. "Is Grandma sleeping?" "No, baby. Grandma's gone to heaven." Lily's face crumpled. "But she didn't say goodbye. She didn't tell me she was leaving." Sarah pulled her daughter into her arms, held her tight while the small body shook with sobs. "She didn't want to make you sad, sweetheart. She loved you so much. She wanted her last memory of you to be happy, not crying." Will I ever see her again? The question every parent dreads, the one with no easy answer. Someday, baby, a long, long time from now. But until then, she'll be watching over you, like a guardian angel. Like Mr. Marcus on the plane. Sarah felt a fresh wave of tears. Yes, sweetheart, exactly like that. The next few hours passed in a blur of paperwork and phone calls and decisions Sarah wasn't ready to make. Funeral arrangements, death certificates, notifications to distant relatives who would express sympathy they didn't really feel. Rebecca handled most of it, recognizing that Sarah was running on empty, that she'd been running on empty since that red-eye flight 6 days ago. You should get some rest, Rebecca said, finding Sarah in the hospital cafeteria at midnight, staring at a cup of cold coffee. You look like you're about to collapse. I can't sleep. Every time I close my eyes, I see her face. That's normal. That's grief. I know, I've seen enough death in the ER. I know how this works. Sarah laughed bitterly, but knowing doesn't make it hurt less. No, it doesn't. They sat in silence for a while, two sisters united in loss, separated by years of distance and different lives. I'm sorry, Sarah said finally, for not being here more, for leaving you to handle everything alone. You had your own life, your own struggles. Mom understood that. Did she? Sometimes I wondered if she resented me for moving so far away. She was proud of you, Sarah, proud of everything you accomplished. She used to tell everyone at the senior center about her daughter, the nurse saving lives in Phoenix. I'm not saving lives. I'm just trying to keep my own head above water. Same thing, isn't it? Sarah's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown Boston number. Heard about your mother. Bone told me, I'm sorry for your loss. If you need anything at all, the number's saved. Marcus? Sarah stared at the message for a long moment. She'd thought about Marcus every day since the flight, wondered how the funeral for his friend had gone, wondered if he'd returned to Arizona or stayed in Boston, wondered if she'd ever see him again. Who's that? Rebecca asked. The man from the plane, the one who helped us. The Hell's Angel, Sarah nodded. You've told me the story 3 times now, about what he did, what he said, about his daughter. I can't stop thinking about it, about him. Is there something? No, nothing like that. He's old enough to be my father. Sarah shook her head. It's not romantic. It's something else, something I can't explain. Try. Sarah considered the question. He saved us, Rebecca, not just from that man on the plane, from something bigger. He reminded me that there are still good people in the world, that not everyone is out to hurt you or use you or take advantage. That's a big thing to learn from a stranger. He's not a stranger anymore. Sarah typed a response to Marcus's text. Thank you. The funeral is Friday. Would you come? The reply came immediately. I'd be honored. Sarah put the phone away and finished her cold coffee. Friday was 3 days away. 3 days to say goodbye to her mother. 3 days to figure out what came next. The funeral was held at St. Michael's Catholic Church, the same church where Eleanor Mitchell had been baptized 73 years ago. The pews were filled with faces Sarah barely recognized. Distant cousins, old neighbors, friends from the senior center and the library and the garden club her mother had loved so much. Sarah sat in the front row with Lily and Rebecca wearing black feeling hollow. The priest spoke about eternal life and God's mercy and the promise of reunion in heaven. Sarah heard the words but couldn't absorb them. They felt distant, abstract, unconnected to the reality of her mother's body lying in that closed casket. Lily fidgeted beside her, uncomfortable in her dress, confused by the ritual. Why is everyone so sad, Mommy? Because they miss Grandma. But you said she went to heaven. Heaven is happy, right? Yes, sweetheart, heaven is happy. Then why are they crying? Sarah didn't have an answer. The service ended. People filed past to pay their respects, murmuring condolences that blurred together into a single, meaningless drone. She was a wonderful woman. I'm so sorry for your loss. If there's anything you need, Sarah nodded and smiled and said thank you until her face ached from the effort. Then she saw him. Marcus stood at the back of the church wearing a dark suit instead of his usual leather. He looked uncomfortable, out of place, like a wolf forced into formal dress. But he'd come, just like he said he would. Sarah excused herself from the receiving line and walked toward him. You made it. Said I would. You look different without the jacket. Feel different too, like I'm wearing someone else's skin. He tugged at his collar. Haven't worn a suit since my brother's wedding, 23 years ago. Thank you for being here. Wouldn't miss it. His eyes moved to the casket at the front of the church. How are you holding up? I don't know. I feel numb, like this is happening to someone else and I'm just watching. That's shock. It'll wear off eventually. Then the real grief starts. Something to look forward to. Grief is the price of love. The more you love someone, the more it hurts when they're gone. That pain, it means the love was real. Sarah felt tears threatening again. When does it get easier? It doesn't get easier. You just get stronger. Learn to carry it better. Marcus's voice softened. 15 years since Emma died, and I still think about her every day. Still hear her voice in my head. Still reach for my phone, sometimes to call her, then remember there's no one to answer. That sounds terrible. It's not. It's a blessing. It means she's still with me, still part of who I am. The day I stop thinking about her is the day I've lost her for good. When the reception was held at Rebecca's house, a modest colonial in Brookline that had been in the family for 3 generations. Sarah stood in the kitchen, hiding from the crowd of mourners when Lily found her. Mommy, that man is here. Mr. Marcus. I know, sweetheart. He's sitting by himself. He looks lonely. Sarah peered through the doorway. Marcus was in the corner of the living room holding a plate of food he hadn't touched, looking profoundly uncomfortable among all these strangers. Should we go sit with him? Lily asked. That's a very kind idea, baby. They crossed the room together, Lily leading the way with the fearless confidence of childhood. Hi, Mr. Marcus. He looked up and his face transformed. The discomfort melted away, replaced by something softer. Hey, little one. How are you doing? I'm sad, but Mommy says it's okay to be sad. Your Mommy's right. Lily climbed onto the couch beside him, settling in like they were old friends. Mommy said Grandma is in heaven now. Do you think she can see us? Marcus considered the question seriously. I think so. I think the people we love never really leave us. They just change, move to a different place, but they're still watching, still caring, like guardian angels. Exactly like guardian angels. Lily nodded, satisfied with this answer. Mr. Marcus, yeah. Thank you for helping us on the plane. That man was scary. He was, but you were very brave. I wasn't brave, I was scared. Being scared and doing the right thing anyway. That's the definition of brave. Lily smiled, the first real smile Sarah had seen from her daughter since Eleanor died. Or to Marcus, will you come visit us in Phoenix? Sarah's heart clenched. Sweetheart, Mr. Marcus is very busy. He has his own life. But he's our friend now. Friends visit each other. Marcus looked at Sarah, a question in his eyes. I'd like that, he said slowly, if your mom says it's okay. Can he, Mommy, please? Sarah thought about the past week, about everything Marcus had done for them, about the connection they'd formed, forged in crisis and strengthened by shared loss. Yes, baby, he can visit anytime he wants. Lily threw her arms around Marcus's neck. He froze for a moment, startled by the sudden contact. Then slowly, carefully, his arms came around her small body, and Sarah saw something she hadn't seen before. Tears rolling down the weathered cheeks of a man who probably hadn't cried in 15 years. Thank you, he whispered so quietly only Sarah could hear. Thank you for letting me be part of this. The mourners eventually departed, leaving Sarah and Rebecca to clean up the remnants of the reception. Marcus stayed to help moving furniture and washing dishes, with a quiet efficiency that surprised no one who knew him. You don't have to do this, Sarah said, finding him in the kitchen, elbow deep in soapy water. I know. Want to. Most guests don't wash dishes at funerals. I'm not a guest, He paused, searching for the right word. I don't know what I am. Your family. The word came out before Sarah could stop it. Or close enough. Marcus turned to face her, hands, dripping eyes searching. That's a big word. Then, it's the right word. After everything you've done for us, after everything we've been through together. We've known each other less than a week. Some people know each other their whole lives and never connect. Other people connect in a single moment. Sarah took a step closer. I felt it on the plane that first night. Something passed between us. Sarah, not romance. I'm not talking about romance. I'm talking about recognition. Like meeting someone you've known forever even though you've just met. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. I felt it too, he admitted finally, when I saw you in the gate area trying to hold it together. When I watched you protect Lily from Derek Lawson. When I heard your story about your mother. What did you feel? Like Emma was giving me a second chance. Like the universe was saying, here's someone who needs what you have to give. Don't mess it up this time. Sarah felt tears streaming down her face. You didn't mess it up. You saved us. I drove off a bully. That's not saving anyone. It was more than that, and you know it. Marcus dried his hands slowly, deliberately, collecting his thoughts. I've spent 15 years trying to make up for failing Emma, protecting strangers, fighting for people who can't fight for themselves. But it's never enough. The hole she left, it never fills. Maybe it's not supposed to fill. Maybe it's supposed to stay open, to remind us of what we lost and what we still have to protect. He looked at her with those pale blue eyes, and for the first time since they'd met, she saw vulnerability there. Real vulnerability. The kind that comes from letting someone past your walls. You are very wise for someone so young. I'm 34. That's not young. It is from where I'm standing. Sarah laughed despite herself. Come to Phoenix, Marcus. Meet Lily's school. See where we live. Let us show you that the people you protect, we don't forget. We don't take it for granted. I have obligations. The club. My brothers. I'm not asking you to give that up. I'm asking you to add something. To let us be part of your life the way you've become part of ours. He stared at her for a long moment. Then slowly he nodded. One visit. We'll see how it goes. Sarah threw her arms around him. This time he didn't hesitate. He hugged her back tight and strong and real. And standing in her sister's kitchen, surrounded by leftover casseroles and sympathy cards, Sarah Mitchell felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Real hope. For the first time since Eric left. For the first time since her father died. For the first time since the world had taught her that depending on anyone was a recipe for disappointment, she had found something unexpected on that red-eye flight. Not romance, not rescue. Something better. Connection. The kind that didn't ask for anything in return. The kind that showed up when you needed it most. The kind that could maybe, just maybe, last forever. 2 days later, Sarah and Lily stood at the departure gate of Boston Logan International Airport. Rebecca had driven them, tears in her eyes, promises to call more often and visit soon, and not let years pass between conversations. Marcus was there too. He'd insisted on seeing them off. Said it felt right. Said he wanted to make sure they got on the plane safely. "This is backwards," Sarah said, smiling through her own tears. "You should be the one leaving. You live here. Sort of." "I live everywhere. That's the thing about the club. Home is wherever your brothers are. Then home is wherever you are." He smiled, that rare, real smile. "Take care of yourself, Sarah Mitchell. Take care of that little girl." "I will. And call me, not just when you need help. Call me to talk, to check in, to tell me about your day." "I promise." Lily tugged at Marcus's hand. "Mr. Marcus." He knelt down to her level. "Yeah, little one. Will you really come visit us?" "I really will. Promise." "I promise." Bowie. Lily threw her arms around his neck one more time. "I love you, Mr. Marcus." The words hit him like a physical blow. Sarah saw it in his face, the shock, the pain, the overwhelming emotion. "I love you too, sweetheart," he whispered. "More than you know." The boarding call came over the speakers. Sarah took Lily's hand, gathered their bags, started toward the jetway. Then she stopped, turned back. "Marcus." "Yeah. Thank you for everything, for protecting us on the plane, for getting us to my mother in time, for being here through all of this." "You don't have to thank me." "Yes, I do, because what you did, it changed in everything. It changed me. It showed me that not everyone who looks dangerous is dangerous, and not everyone who looks safe is safe." That's a hell of a lesson to learn from a Hell's Angel. "It's the best lesson anyone ever taught me." She walked back to where he stood, rose on her toes, and kissed his cheek. "See you in Phoenix, Marcus Reeves. See you in Phoenix, Sarah Mitchell." She walked through the jetway with Lily's hand in hers. The last thing she saw before the door closed was Marcus standing at the window watching them go, one hand raised in farewell, one hand pressed against his heart. 3 months passed. Sarah returned to her shifts at Phoenix General, throwing herself into work with a ferocity that surprised her colleagues. She took extra hours, volunteered for the hardest cases, stayed late to hold the hands of dying patients who had no one else. Her supervisor pulled her aside one evening. "You're going to burn out, Sarah. You can't save everyone." "I'm not trying to save everyone. I'm just trying to save the ones I can reach." The words came out automatically, and she realized with a start where she'd heard them before. Marcus, she thought about him every day, checked her phone every morning for messages, sent him photos of Lily's school projects and updates about her life and random thoughts that popped into her head at 2 a.m. He always responded, sometimes immediately, sometimes hours later, but always. The messages were brief the way he was brief, but they meant everything. "Lily's drawing looks great. Kid's got talent. Glad the shift went well. Get some sleep. Thinking about you both today. Stay strong." Then on a Tuesday afternoon in March, her phone rang. Unknown Arizona number. She answered on the second ring. "Sarah Mitchell." "Yes, this is Hammer. I'm calling from the Arizona chapter." Her blood went cold. "Is Marcus okay?" A pause. "There's been an accident." Sarah's knees buckled. She grabbed the edge of the nurse's station to keep from falling. "What kind of accident? Is he alive?" "He's alive, but it's bad, real bad. He's at Banner University Medical Center, room 412. I'm on my way." She was in her car before she hung up the phone, breaking every speed limit between the hospital and the medical center. Across town, room 412, the same room number where her mother had died. The universe had a cruel sense of humor. She burst through the doors of the ICU 20 minutes later, still in her scrubs badge swinging against her chest. Marcus Reeves, where is he? The nurse at the desk looked up, startled by her intensity. Are you family? Yes. The lie came without hesitation. I'm his daughter. The nurse's face softened. Room 412, down the hall, second left. But ma'am, I should warn you, his injuries are severe. The doctors aren't sure if... Sarah was already running. She found the room, pushed through the door, and stopped. Marcus lay in the hospital bed, tubes snaking from his arms, monitors beeping their steady rhythm. His face was swollen purple and black with bruises. His left leg was in traction. Bandages covered most of his chest, but his eyes were open, and when he saw her, he smiled. That same smile, tired and pained, but real. Hey, hey, Sarah rushed to his bedside, tears streaming down her face. That's all you have to say, hey. What else should I say? You scared me half to death when they called when they said there was an accident. I'm hard to kill. Tried a few times. Never sticks. This isn't funny, Marcus. No, it's not. His hand found hers squeezed weakly, but I'm still here. That's what matters. What happened? Drunk driver, ran a red light, T-boned me at 40 miles an hour. He winced, shifting slightly. Bike's totaled. 40 years I rode that machine. Survived Vietnam, survived bar fights, survived everything the road could throw at me. Done in by some idiot who couldn't call a cab. You could have died. Didn't though. Marcus, Sarah. She couldn't help it. She laughed through her tears. You're impossible. So I've been told. A man appeared in the doorway, tall, broad leather vest over a denim shirt, the same patch Marcus wore. You must be Sarah. She wiped her eyes. Yes. I'm Hammer, I called you. He crossed to the bed, looked down at Marcus with a mixture of exasperation and affection. This old fool's been asking for you since he woke up. Wouldn't let the doctors do anything until we promised to call. I wanted her to know, Marcus said quietly. If things went south, I wanted her to know. Know what? Marcus's eyes met hers. That she changed my life. That meeting Lily, it gave me something I thought I'd lost forever. What's that? A reason to stay. Sarah felt fresh tears coming. Marcus, I've been riding for 30 years, living hard, not caring much whether I saw tomorrow or not. Emma was my reason, and when she died, the reason went with her. He squeezed her hand tighter. Then I met you, on that plane, and something woke up. Something I thought was dead. You barely knew me. Didn't matter. Some things you know right away. Some people you recognize, even if you've never met. Hammer cleared his throat. I'll give you two some privacy. The boys are in the waiting room. Just yell if you need anything. He left, closing the door softly behind him. Sarah sat on the edge of the bed, still holding Marcus's hand. You should have told me you were struggling, that you didn't care about tomorrow. Didn't want to burden you. You had enough going on. You're not a burden. You've never been a burden. Sarah, listen to me. Her voice was firm now. Nurse voice, the one that brooked no argument. You saved my life on that plane, not just physically, emotionally, spiritually. You showed me that good people still exist. That strength doesn't have to mean violence. That family can be chosen as well as born. I didn't save your life. I just scared off a bully. It was more than that, and you know it. She reached up, touched his bruised face gently. You came into my life when I needed you most. You protected my daughter. You got us to Boston in time to say goodbye to my mother. And then you disappeared because that's what you do. You help people and then you fade away before they can thank you properly. I didn't disappear. I was giving you space. I don't want space. I want you in our lives, really in our lives. Not just texts and phone calls. I want you at Lily's birthday parties and school plays and Sunday dinners. Sarah, I'm a 62-year-old biker with a criminal record and more enemies than friends. I don't care. You should care. Getting close to me puts a target on you. Being alone puts a bigger target on me. At least with you, I have someone watching my back. Marcus stared at her for a long moment. You mean that? Every word. Even after seeing this, he gestured at his battered body. Even knowing this is what my life looks like, especially after seeing this, because it proves you're mortal. It proves you need someone looking out for you as much as you look out for everyone else. His eyes glistened. I don't deserve this. Don't deserve you. Nobody deserves anything. We just show up for each other. That's what family does. The word hung in the air. Family. You keep saying that word, Marcus whispered. Because it's true. You're family, Marcus. Whether you like it or not, whether it makes sense or not. You became family the moment you stood up for us on that plane. I don't know how to be family. Not anymore. Not since Emma. Then we'll figure it out together. He closed his eyes. When he opened them again, they were wet. Okay. Okay, we'll figure it out together. Sarah leaned down and kissed his forehead. Now get some rest. Doctor's orders. You're not my doctor. I'm a nurse, close enough. He smiled, that real smile, the one that transformed his whole face. Bossy, just like Emma. Good, someone needs to boss you around. She stayed until he fell asleep. Then she went to the waiting room, found Hammer and 5 other angels sitting in the hard plastic chairs, and sat down beside them. Thank you for calling me. Hammer nodded. He talks about you all the time. You and the little girl. Says meeting you was the best thing that happened to him in 15 years. He said that, not in those words, Ghost doesn't say much, but we know him. We see how he lights up when your name comes up, how he checks his phone 10 times a day, waiting for your messages. He never told me. He wouldn't. That's Ghost. Gives everything, asks for nothing. Thinks he doesn't deserve good things. Why does he think that? Because of Emma. Because he blames himself for what happened to her, even though there's nothing he could have done. He's been punishing himself for 15 years, living like he doesn't matter, taking risks no sane person would take. Like riding a motorcycle in Phoenix traffic. Like that, like 100 other things. He's been trying to die, Sarah, slowly, quietly, one risk at a time. The words hit her like a fist. That stops now? Hammer raised an eyebrow. You think you can stop him? I think I can give him a reason to stop himself. Something shifted in Hammer's expression. Respect, maybe. Recognition. You might be exactly what he needs. I know I am. She stood up, gathered her things. I need to pick up my daughter from school. But I'll be back tonight, and tomorrow, and every day until he's well enough to come home. Home where? Sarah smiled. With us, where he belongs. 6 weeks later, Marcus Reeves walked out of the hospital on crutches. Sarah and Lily were waiting at the entrance. Mr. Marcus, Lily ran to him, throwing her arms around his waist with a complete disregard for crutches and injuries that only children possess. Easy, little one, still fragile. I made you a card, like the one I made for Grandma. She held it up. Construction paper. Glitter hearts. Crooked letters spelling out, welcome home. And 3 stick figures holding hands. One tall, one medium, one small. Marcus stared at the picture. Who's that? That's us, silly. You, Mommy, and me. We're a family now. Sarah watched his face, watched the walls come down, watched something break open in his chest. Yeah, he whispered. I guess we are. He moved into Sarah's guest room. Temporary, they said, just until he was fully recovered. But temporary became permanent in the way that these things always do. He was there when Lily came home from school with stories about her day. He was there when Sarah came home from her shifts, exhausted and drained. He was there on Sunday mornings, making pancakes in the kitchen but teaching Lily how to flip them without splattering batter on the ceiling. He was there. That was what mattered. One evening, Sarah found him sitting on the back porch, staring at the Arizona sunset. Penny, for your thoughts. He looked up, made room for her on the bench, thinking about Emma. What about her? Wondering what she'd think of all this, of me being here, of, he gestured vaguely at the house, at the life they'd built. This. What do you think she'd say? I think she'd laugh. Tell me it's about damn time. Sounds like she was smart. Smarter than me, always was. He was quiet for a moment. I talk to her sometimes in my head. Tell her about Lily's drawings and your terrible jokes and the way you burn toast every single morning. I don't burn toast every morning. You burned it this morning. That was one time. It was the 4th time this week. Sarah laughed despite herself. Okay, fine, I'm a terrible cook. You're a great cook. You just can't make toast. Everyone has their weaknesses. Marcus smiled. I told Emma about you, about that night on the plane, about everything that happened after. What did she say? She said I should stop running, stop pushing people away, stop trying to make up for failing her by never letting anyone close enough to fail again. That sounds like good advice. It was. He turned to face her. I'm done running, Sarah. I'm done keeping people at arm's length. I'm done pretending I don't need anyone. Good, because you're stuck with us now. I know. He reached out, took her hand. And I'm grateful, more than you'll ever know. They sat together in silence, watching the sun sink below the horizon. Two people who had found each other in the most unlikely circumstances. Two people who had recognized something in each other that went beyond words. Two people who had become family. The following summer, Sarah received a letter in the mail. No return address. Inside was a newspaper clipping. Derek Lawson, former VP of Meridian Capital, had been arrested on federal charges of fraud, money laundering, and sexual harassment. 12 women had come forward with allegations spanning 15 years. He was facing 40 years in prison. At the bottom of the clipping, someone had written 3 words in block letters, "Justice served, ghost." Sarah smiled. Some monsters got what they deserved, and sometimes the people who made it happen wore leather jackets and rode motorcycles. 2 years later, on a crisp October morning, Marcus Reeves adopted a daughter. Not Sarah. That would have been strange given that they were nearly the same age. But Lily. The paperwork took months. The court appearances were awkward. The social workers asked questions that Marcus answered with his usual gruff honesty. Why do you want to adopt this child? Because she already adopted me. I'm just making it official. The judge looked at him over her glasses. Mr. Reeves, you have a criminal record. Yes, ma'am. You were a member of a motorcycle club. Still am, ma'am, will be until I die. And you think that makes you suitable parent material? I think being there makes me suitable parent material. I think showing up every day makes me suitable parent material. I think loving that little girl with everything I have makes me suitable parent material. He leaned forward. My biological daughter died because I wasn't there when she needed me. I've spent 15 years regretting that. Lily won't have the same story. I'll be there every day for as long as I live. The judge was quiet for a long moment. Then she stamped the papers. Adoption approved. Lily screamed with joy. She ran to Marcus, who caught her in his arms and held her tight. Sarah watched from the gallery, tears streaming down her face. Her mother had been right. Everyone needs a guardian angel, and sometimes the best ones don't have wings. They have leather jackets and Harley-Davidsons and hearts full of love they've been waiting to give. 5 years after that red-eye flight from Phoenix to Boston, Sarah Mitchell stood at the front of St. Michael's Catholic Church, the same church where she'd said goodbye to her mother. But today wasn't about goodbyes. Today was about beginnings. Marcus stood beside her, uncomfortable in his suit, but smiling. Not the small, rare smile she'd first seen on the plane. A full smile, open, unguarded, real. Lily stood between them now, 13 years old, holding a bouquet of wildflowers. The priest asked the question, "Do you, Sarah Mitchell, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" "I do." "And do you, Marcus Reeves, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." The church was filled with people, Rebecca and her family, colleagues from Phoenix General, neighbors and friends who had watched this unlikely romance unfold. And in the back rows, wearing their leather vests, proudly 47 members of the Hells Angels Arizona chapter. Hammer stood as best man. Bone had flown in from Boston. Brothers from Nevada, California, New Mexico, and Texas had made the journey. Because that's what family did. They showed up. "By the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife." Marcus kissed her. And in that moment, Sarah Mitchell understood something she'd been trying to grasp since that first night on the plane. Love didn't always look the way you expected. Heroes didn't always wear capes. And family wasn't just the people you were born to. Family was the people who showed up when you needed them most. The people who protected you when you couldn't protect yourself. The people who saw through the fear and the doubt and the exhaustion to the person underneath. Marcus had seen her. Really seen her on a red-eye flight from Phoenix to Boston, surrounded by strangers, terrified and alone. And he had chosen to protect her, not because she asked, not because she paid, but because that's who he was. A man who had lost everything and rebuilt himself around a single purpose, protecting the people who couldn't protect themselves. Sarah had thought she was alone that night. She had been wrong. She had never been alone, and she never would be again. 10 years after the flight that changed everything, Sarah and Marcus stood at the edge of a cliff overlooking the Arizona desert. Lily was away at college now, pre-med. She wanted to be a nurse like her mother. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and gold. Marcus's arm was around Sarah's shoulders. "You know what I think about sometimes," he said. What would have happened if I'd been in a different seat? If Derek Lawson had chosen a different flight? If any of 1,000 things had been different? We would have missed each other. Yeah, his arm tightened around her, and the universe doesn't make a lot of sense to me. Never has. But that night on that plane, everything lined up exactly right. You needed help. I needed purpose. Lily needed a father. And my mother needed to see her granddaughter one more time. All of it, all at once, like someone planned it. You think someone did? Marcus was quiet for a moment. I think Emma had something to do with it. I think she's up there somewhere watching over me, making sure I don't screw up too badly. You haven't screwed up at all. I've screwed up plenty, just not with you, not with Lily. Sarah turned to face him, 67 years old now, but still strong, still sharp, still the man who had stood up on a plane and faced down a predator without raising his voice. I love you, Marcus Reeves. I love you too, Sarah Reeves. She smiled at the name. Sarah Reeves. It still felt new even after 5 years. Tell me about Emma. Tell me something you've never told anyone. He considered the question. The day she was born, I held her in my arms and promised her that I would always protect her, that nothing bad would ever happen to her as long as I was alive. His voice cracked. I broke that promise. You didn't break it. You were betrayed. There's a difference. I know, but it doesn't feel different. Then let me tell you something. Sarah took his face in her hands. Every day that you've been with Lily, every school play, every birthday party, every scraped knee and broken heart and midnight conversation, you've been keeping that promise. Not to Emma. To all the daughters who need protecting. To all the women who need someone standing beside them. You really believe that. I know it. Because I was one of those women, and you showed up for me. Marcus closed his eyes. When he opened them, they were clear. Thank you, Sarah, for seeing me, the real me, not the patch or the scars or the reputation. Thank you for letting me see. They stood together as the sun disappeared below the horizon. Two people who had found each other against all odds. Two people who had built a life together. Two people who had proven that family wasn't about blood or birth. It was about choice, about showing up, about love that didn't ask for anything in return. Sarah Mitchell had boarded a plane terrified and alone. She had landed with a protector, a father for her daughter, and the love of her life. All because a man in a leather jacket had decided that wrong was wrong, and someone should do something about it. On a red-eye flight from Phoenix to Boston, Sarah had learned the most important lesson of her life. Angels don't always have wings. Sometimes they have leather jackets and Harley Davidsons and scars on their knuckles from decades of protecting people who couldn't protect themselves. Sometimes they sit right beside you, quiet and watchful, waiting for the moment they can finally make a difference. And sometimes, if you are very lucky, they stay. Not because they have to, but because they choose to, because family is a choice. And Marcus Reeves had chosen Sarah Mitchell, just as she had chosen him. And that choice had changed everything for both of them forever.